there if we can hear you and who you are and what you do.
Okay.
Yes.
So good morning and thank you for having me once again. Like you heard, my name is Dr. Njoki. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist, by the way. I'm a medical practitioner.
Okay.
And I also am a lecturer in reproductive health. And then I also do health and safety and risk management, at a consulting level. And I got into health and safety in schools, especially during COVID when we were grappling with the whole, I don't know if you remember, there was this 8-9 month closure of of schools at that time.
Yes.
And the biggest challenge was, what do we do when these kids go back to school? There was so much uncertainty. And that is when now it was exposed that actually our health and safety systems in schools are not up to par. And that was what people grappled with for so long. But sadly, since COVID was 2020, 2021, we are still, I don't think we've made such great strides. And we still see sad stories, many of which are not reported.
Yes.
I think we only get to hear the very dramatic ones, but so it's still a conversation we need to have. And I think this is a good opportunity because schools are closing next month.
Yes.
So I think it's a time of reflection and maybe it's a time for action as the schools close. Maybe we can look and see what is it that we are not doing properly and what can we do so that then when our children come next year, 2025, is a year of new beginnings, and we make sure that some of the issues that we're facing, we don't face them again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Njoki, we've had incidents of fire in our schools because looking at history, in 1991 we had a similar case in Kizito, we had the 1998 Bombolulu High, we had 1999 we had the Nyeri High, we had the 2001 Changuli. I don't know, why do you think we still find ourselves in the same situations? Is it that we don't learn?
Okay. That's a very interesting question. But I think, I always think that we think it will not happen to us. It will happen to those guys.
Yes.
That school, those ones there, and we don't realize how accidents and incidences can happen to anybody, including we in our own homes, in our own schools. And schools are a high risk because number one, it's an environment where there are many children. There are many people together, and these people happen to be children. Remember, kids who are not mature enough to even make decisions of their own, they have to be guided, they have to be helped. And then remember, fire is usually a panic situation already.
Yes.
Yeah. And then many of these fires happen at night. Yeah. That is the setting. And then on top of that, you have schools that are not built with fire safety in mind. You have schools where there are grills because you're trying to make sure that the children don't escape. Or I don't know who you're anticipating will come in from the outside.
Yes,
So the children have the very small grills. And then and this has been talked about, the doors of the dormitories should always open to the outside. And you don't need to have those steel doors with padlocks.
Yes.
Then the matron has padlocked you guys and gone. You cannot break a steel door, And then the other thing is that the mattresses that we have, that we use, are highly flammable. So when that mattress catches fire, number one, it burns quickly, and number two, it produces toxic gases, including carbon monoxide and others. And these are the things that now begin to kill the child. Even before the child succumbs to the fire burns, they die because of asphyxiation. Let's talk about the congestion that we have in our dormitories. I had someone saying somewhere that it's okay to have triple decker beds. It's not okay because when that child jumps, because obviously they will not descend, they will jump. They will jump, they will hurt themselves. So even if they were going to escape, now you're dealing with an injury, that child will literally be slowed down. And then the congestion makes it even difficult to assemble children and to move them. And then, of course, in that congestion, the beddings, the clothes, these things catch fire very easily. So then also congestion does not allow pathways for exits. And then in a congested dormitory, all of us are scrambling for the small door. So you see, many small things, many small things add up so that then when the fire breaks out, it is it is tragic. We can have a fire extinguisher, yes, a fire one that is in a corner somewhere.
Yeah.
If this is I don't know how how heavy fire extinguishers
are.
They are.
They're very heavy, and the children might not be able to operate on them, or the fire hose is outside.
Yes.
You see, all these safety features that we can install have to also go in parallel with the structure, and then also with the support that we give these children. Fire drills, are controversial, but I think children should know that should there be a fire, this is what we do, and this is how we handle ourselves. I don't know how many schools organize fire drills, or they think, it'll happen to those guys, not to us.
Yes.
Yeah? So my first comment is fire can happen to anyone, not anyone. I think that school, the next time it could be you, and it'll always be a tragedy, because even if there's a loss of one child, that is one child too many.
Yeah, sure.
So to your question, Frank, I don't think we learn. And I don't know how many children we are going to lose for us to learn that we need to do something. Yeah.
All right. Now, you're talking about the issue of fires. Maybe are there some other dangers our children could face while in school?
Absolutely. Remember, I told you that that children are they have young minds, they have explorative minds, and they're not really conscious of danger.
Yes.
And apart from fire, which is just one, there are many risks that children face when they're in school, and that is why I'm appealing to schools this December. Please do a risk and health and safety audit for your school. When the kids are gone, just get the expert. We will come and we will assess the risks that you may not even know is a risk to your school.
Yes.
And you have time over the 2 months holiday to fix that situation, so that the next year, I want it to be a year of fresh beginnings. I keep saying this, let this be the last year we are having preventable. So now to your question, there are many risks. Number one, children can fall ill in school.
Okay.
And there are many guidelines that the government has given. But remember, the government always gives the bare minimum.
Yes.
Yes? A child falls ill in school, and this illness can be from a flu to a running nose to a fever to even life-threatening conditions. A child can choke. I remember there was an incident in a certain school where boys were playing rugby.
Yes.
And you know how these boys, they collide.
Yeah.
Their heads collided. And one child lost consciousness for a very short time. Transient, we call it transient. It was like 2 minutes, and then the guy woke up and continued with his life. He went to the nurse gave him Panadol, and the fellow went to bed. He didn't wake up. He died in his bed at night. What happened? He had head injury.
Yes.
And what was the clue? That loss of consciousness for that very short time. But there was no clinical person to actually what happened. Did you lose consciousness? Did you black out? If the answer is yes, you go to hospital, regardless of what the child is feeling. So he had a bleed in the brain and he died in the night. Absolutely preventable. But there was nobody to ask the right questions. We saw there was a case of some school in Western that they had diarrhea and vomiting, and because of, I think it was contaminated water or something like that. And we lost children.
Yes.
We lost kids, So the girls are sick. They report what is the situation on the ground. We don't know. By the time we are escalating, we're escalating because girls are dying. What was the end of that story? How do we make sure that we do not have contamination, fecal-oral contamination? It's only by audit, where we take the water, we check samples, and we tell you your water is contaminated. Let's look for the source of contamination and let us fix it. I've had incidences of children who have chronic illnesses. Unfortunately, we have kids who have got are dealing with chronic illness, sickle cell, diabetes, diabetes, even type 1, where they need insulin injections, hypertension, cancer, mental illnesses, depression, schizophrenia, all these things. And these children are in our boarding schools. And as a principal and administrator, you ask yourself, I have admitted this child with diabetes type 1. Do I have the capacity in this school to look after this child the way the mother would have looked after the child at home? Do I have the medical expertise? Or what do I do? Do I just take a child in knowing that they have a chronic life-threatening illness? And what happens is, if you don't look after these children well, when they leave and go into the world, their diseases have become worse, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, you've reduced the span of their life because of not giving them care when they're in school. And that is why I'm saying, do we have the health systems in our schools capable of looking after these children? Emergency care. A child will get a fracture, a child will choke, a child will be unconscious, a child will burn. Unfortunately, they're in the lab and Bunsen burner explodes. What do you do? What is your plan for evacuation of that child to safety? And the plan is not call the parents, because as our life is very rich as parents, we're not always available.
Yes.
Number one, to pick calls, and number two, to be accessible to the child.
Right.
So when I have taken my child to school this morning, I have delegated parental authority to the school. They should be able to have capacity to look at the child, make a decision, and move. They will tell me FYI as they are going, but they have made a decision and they have taken the child for healthcare. Many of the times there are delays. You're trying to look for me. Right now, if you call me, I'm on hold. I will not answer the phone.
Yeah.
And maybe my child is in crisis, God forbid. So capacity of schools to deal with medical emergencies. And the plan is not call the parents. There are many boarding schools where you find the child has a cough day 1, day 2, call the mother. Yes, the school is in Mombasa, the mother is in Nairobi.
Yes.
How does that work?
Yeah.
Or even if the school is in Machakos and the child is in Nairobi,
Yes.
that's a whole half a day to go and deal with a situation that could actually be dealt with in school. So it's a delay. There's a delay. By the time you're going to pick up the child, they have full-blown pneumonia. And yet maybe you could have set up a system in the school where they can get antibiotics, they can go and get x-rays done. What am I saying? I think we just need to get out of this. We need to rise up. We need to rise up. We need to do better. We need to be more aggressive. And it's not difficult. But parents usually say, it's a responsibility of the government. I know that's going to be your next question, yeah? That's going to be your next question, yeah? It is a responsibility of government. And let me say this.
Yes.
If you look at the Education Act, it's available online. We can all read. The Cabinet Secretary is supposed to provide basic education. And what does basic education mean? And we've seen there's a lot of activity when we talk about education. They build classrooms.
Yes.
They build labs. The library.
Teachers.
They employ teachers and they pay them and they train them and we need extra teachers. I don't know. Then they do curriculum. All this business of CVC and JSS, that is the government's job to provide education. 1 + 1 is 2. Now, food is not the government's responsibility.
Okay.
Transport,
Yes.
it's not the government's responsibility. Boarding is not the government's responsibility. That is your responsibility as a parent, and it is in the act. If you read, welfare, health and safety, all those things are the responsibility of the parent. The same way I provide food in my house. Yes, I cannot go take the child to school and expect that the child will be fed automatically. I have to feed the child, meaning I give money, isn't it?
Yes.
The same way I provide when I'm in school, I have to think when I'm at home, when the child goes to school, how will the child be treated? It then cannot be a government responsibility.
Yes.
It is still my responsibility. I have to facilitate healthcare when the child is in school, and accommodation and health and safety. I don't think there's any government that provides school buses.
No.
They don't.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Yes. But when you go to the music festival, how many buses did you see?
So many.
Many.
Every school has got not 1, not 2, 3, 4. And they buy the buses. They mobilize the parents.
Yeah.
They get the local MP. They get donors. In the same way that you mobilize resources to get the school bus, which is not part of education, but it facilitates learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you
Yes.
feel you need the children to go wherever they need to go.
Yeah.
As parents, it is our primary responsibility to ensure that our children are safe in school and to demand. We have what we call the Parents Teachers Association. Again, it's in the act.
Yes.
If you just read, if you read the third schedule, it's at the bottom of the document. The parents have been empowered through the third schedule.
Yes.
Yeah, and the chair of the Parents Association sits on the board of board of management.
Yes,
in school.
yeah.
And so whatever the parents agree, the parents come together and say, we are buying a bus. Each parent will produce 500 shillings. The parents have their own bank account. Then they just tell the board, oh, by the way, as parents, we are buying a bus. It's not coming from the school finances. And this is a very well-structured thing, even to the National Parents Association level.
Yes.
So it's there. It is just that it has not been empowered. Yeah, parents have certain responsibilities and they have been empowered by the act and to do these things. So when I hear parents saying it is government responsibility, I feel a bit sad. And the truth is when a child has a problem and in the unfortunate situation of a child death, the child is brought back to you.
Yes. Yeah.
To you, the parent.
Yes.
To bury. The loss is yours 100%.
The school moves on swiftly.
The school moves on. The government moves on. Us guys on social media find something else to talk about.
Yeah.
But you as a parent are left with that loss for the rest of your life. So it is you as a parent to take that responsibility and to take it seriously. I don't know which language I'm going to use.
You really want to hammer that point.
I don't know.
Yeah. And we totally get you, Dr. Njoki.
I don't know how I said which rooftop will I stand on.
Yes.
Maybe.
People get it. Yes.
Right. I'm just wondering, maybe then, is it an issue of not being intentional? Because like you're talking about the Education Act, I don't know how many of us know of an existing document called the Education Act.
It's there.
And what it entails.
Yes.
If you Google, you'll find it.
Right.
Yeah, it's there. It's there.
So what you're saying, basically, I hear, is that, parents have to be intentional about their children and their well-being.
Yes. And it's not about, I listen to parents talking about a school and then they say it's a good performing school and I want to just die. Because what do you mean it's a good performing school? It's not about the grade if the child will never leave the school alive.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's this discussion. I know the other day we were on Citizen and there was a gentleman who was saying that parents are not even allowed to enter the school. They're not allowed to inspect the dining room and the kitchen and I don't know.
The dormitories.
So the dormitories. So they don't know how their children live. And I refuse to accept that. I refuse to accept that because the minister might not allow all 3,000 parents
At once.
Right, to go on an inspection. But these parents are representatives. So in that PTA precisely, the class rep or the form rep, can actually be the one. Because remember, these people even sit on the board.
Yes.
So they can be the one to do the inspection on behalf of
the parents.
Yeah, we all don't have to go into the boarding school. We know the standards. Then the other thing, we need to listen to our children.
Yeah.
Children will come and tell you things, and then you just say. In fact, if you listen on social media, they say, "Oh, the child is just being spoiled. The child doesn't want to learn."
Yes.
Right.
But if a child comes and gives you concerns, especially around health and safety, you listen to them. You escalate to the school, and if you find that it's not being taken seriously, remember, as a parent, you can take a decision, to take that child to another institution where they will be safe. Yeah. So we cannot say, we are not allowed. There is no way you're going to take a child to a school and leave them for 3 months and you don't know where they're sleeping, what they're eating, how. As a parent, no, you can't do that. Yeah.
Yes.
We need to demand better. We need to ask for more, but also we need to be willing to do our part to help them better, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Not just complain, but if we are called upon by the board or by the PTA to build another dormitory because our children are congested, it is for the good of my child.
Okay.
So I give, like that.
All right. Talking about, we've talked about the Education Act. There is, the School Safety Manual and some other many documents revolving around the safety of our children in school. Now, do you think maybe when it comes to the government coming up with the policies, is the policy framework detached from reality? Because maybe having to come up with the policies but not implementing, walking the talk, or, the content in the document is the problem. Is it that the policy framework is detached from reality on ground?
Okay. Policies are usually just that. General guidelines.
Okay.
Broad guidelines. And remember, implementation of policy really depends on school by school.
Okay.
A school is a community and
Yes.
it is housed within a community. So the way we will implement a policy in I don't know, Nyando is not the same way we will implement a policy here in Nairobi, isn't it? Because the environment is different. The school environment is. But when they say there needs to be a certain ratio of toilets per a ratio between student toilet ratio, that's a policy. But whether the toilets are pit latrines, whether the toilets are flush toilets, whether now that depends on the school to school. But the principle is for every child, for every 10 children, we need one toilet. So that is now the basic guideline. For the toilets need to be clean and healthy and hygienic. Obviously, the way you clean a pit latrine is not the same way that you clean a flush toilet. You see, so the implementation of the principle is different, but the principle is the same. We have, unfortunately, in our schools, one tragedy that I have seen, and I visit quite a number of schools, is that because of the transition that we have, 100% transition, we are not building infrastructure as quickly. So if a school was supposed to house 1,000 children, and all of a sudden they're housing 2,000, we did not build the washrooms as quickly, or we did not build the dormitories as quickly, or the dining rooms and the boarding facilities. So you find that even the school cannot keep up with the sanitation because it becomes a full-time job. Just keep cleaning, washing, and then now there is no money because remember the school is given money for education. So where do I get money to clean these washrooms? That is where the parents come in, to say that our children need clean washrooms. So we will build ablution blocks and we will ensure that they are clean. Ultimately, who's using that toilet?
Your child.
Your child, isn't it? If your child does not get a clean washroom, especially girls, not especially everyone, but especially girls, you know, it's a problem, isn't it? So I try to close my eyes and think, how would I want that toilet to be for me? Then can I have the same for my child? Remember, when the child comes home during the holidays, they come and find a clean washroom, clean bedrooms, and then after that you subject the child to the horror of that. I'm sure the children think, Kwani mom doesn't love me. Why would she do this to me? Why? In the name of a good performing school and good grades. You see, you're also even affecting the mental health of that child. Have you ever, and I'll ask
Sharon.
Yes, I'll ask Sharon. Have you ever wanted to go to the washroom and you can't?
Yes.
Because you can't. You can't. Isn't it? When you're outside here, you have options. When you're in school, what you do?
You don't.
You don't.
Yeah, you just have to use it the way it is.
So what is the mental agony you're going through? And this is basic. It's like food. I mean, a washroom. But actually, it is a big crisis in our schools. Things like toilets. And this is day to day. Forget the fires that come once in a blue moon. I'm talking about the day-to-day reality. You need to go to the washroom twice a day. You can imagine how our kids are suffering. So... Parents. I will not say parents.
I think,
and even in day schools, by the way, we are not forgiven. We are not forgiven. We may think, day schools, children don't go to the washroom, but they do. And they have lunch in school, so dining facilities, and they get medical emergencies. So that whole story we need to think about.
I think we are just going to take a very short commercial break, and when we come back, Dr. Njoki, there is the point of implementation. I think there is the part of the government of formulating policies, interpreting and supervising. I think we're going to be talking about that
I think so.
when we come back after the short break. Let's have the latest in business. Don't go away.
Hope FM, another quality service from Christ, is the answer ministry.
The Business Line. It's just business. Listen and leave.
Absolutely. These are just having 13 minutes to the top of the hour. It is the 17th of September, the year 2024 on Breakfast Table. This wonderful morning on Activate. And just moving on with the conversation we are having on safety in schools, and we are engaging Dr. Njoki Fernendes, who's helping us to, unpack the conversation. Dr. Njoki, we are talking about the issue of having to formulate policies, the interpretation and implementation, and then supervision. I think when the government comes up with these policies, now when the policies are cascaded down to the school in rural areas, is there need to interpret the policy? Because maybe most of the teachers, maybe the heads, the school heads, are getting it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Like I said, there are very many policies around health and safety. I think I've counted 17.
Yes.
There probably could be more. And I saw the other day that I think it was TSC that was saying that the head teachers should use the school safety manual. That school safety manual, if you Google it, it was done in 2008.
Yes.
It's a very
Right.
old document.
Yeah.
And others have come after that, yeah?
Yes.
So the first thing we need to agree is which document are we using? Right? Yes,
Yeah.
yes. There's one that was done by, I think, Cecily Karaoke and Amina Mohammed that time when they were in charge of their respective ministries. That's the latest one I have seen.
Yes.
Even then, a very nice document, yeah? But our documents are beautiful. They have very nice policy. Yes, very nice. Very well thought out,
Yes.
very well researched, but then they remain on the shelf gathering dust,
Yeah.
yeah? So we need to agree what policy are we using. So if we say that the toilet to child ratio is 1 in 10,
Yes.
that is basic arithmetic. Yes.
Yeah.
Then now the safety standards then again now depend on the community and where the school is and whatever it is, because that is going to be different.
Yes.
If we say that the space, in fact, it even talks about the
spacing of the beds.
spacing of the beds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've seen it, yeah? In the dormitories, it's the
Yeah.
spacing of the beds. If we say it's 10 meters, it is 10 meters.
Right.
So if we need to house 3,000 children, you do the math and you calculate and you
Yes.
decide a dormitory shall have this and that. If we talk about the drill, so the policies are actually there. Unfortunately, I think where the government really needs to support us is to supervise and make sure that the implementation is done.
Okay.
So I think they need to just have another whole section
Yes.
in, is it Ministry of Health, yeah?
Uh-huh.
Or no, Ministry of Education.
Education.
Or have a good conversation with Ministry of Health to help them, just to have a Department of Health and Safety. And what do we do?
Yes.
We just really make sure that these policies are actually implemented qua ground before you're licensed.
Yes.
As an institution, as a school, there are certain boxes that you need to tick.
Yeah.
And those licensing officers should be very tough.
Yes.
Because ultimately you're thinking about the lives of our children.
Yeah.
You know, the same way when you want to open a restaurant, there are certain things and you get a license from I don't know who and where. The same thing should be for our schools. If the schools did that, just
Yes.
help us by supervising, and then now it is up to the school to think where the inspectors are coming.
Yes.
They will shut us down because our toilets are not up to par. We
Yeah.
tell the parents or whatever, you go look for a donor, the MP, I don't know, but figure it out, but they know this school will not be like, in fact right now I'm sure if we did a serious audit,
Yes.
there are very many schools that would not open in 2025.
Yeah.
Yes, they wouldn't because they simply don't meet the requirements.
Yes.
So we're saying these 2 months because we do not expect the government to breathe down your neck.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
As an institution that has accepted to take upon children, it is your moral obligation. It is your ethical obligation to follow the law. You know, when they come throwing the law at you is when things go wrong.
Right.
Is when now they come to inspect with all their 20 policies.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's fine that you didn't do. But then now it's a bit too late, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they will always crucify you based on the law that you have not been following, yet you've been operating with a license from them. So let us be ethically and morally responsible as school owners, as school principals, to make sure that your children are safe, whether you are being supervised
Yes.
Or not.
Yes. And also as a parent, just to think, if those standards don't meet my child, it's not worth it saying that they're having an education. Let me do what is good for my child. But let's collectively, like now, the institutions where they say they want to outsource the sanatorium, you know, the sanatorium, that place.
Yes.
Yeah, get an external person to do it for you.
Yeah.
They hire doctors, they put the drugs, they get the nursing team, and they do health and safety, and they do mental wellness, and they do hygiene, all those things. And they are charged an extra, 500, 600, 1,000 a term.
Yes.
And the parents happily pay.
Yeah.
Because then they know, for me to drive to Machakos to collect my child for an eye infection is not 1,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
It
It's a
can't
whole
be.
day, and it's
Right.
more expensive, but that eye infection can be treated in that facility. So it's a good way of doing such things.
All
They
right.
some schools delegate washing of the toilets
Yeah.
because it's a bit too much for the school to handle. So
Okay.
they charge the child an extra 100 shillings a term. The toilets are cleaned. You know, things like those.
Okay.
The way also they outsource security and things like that. We just have to think, how can we help the school look after our children?
Thank you.
Better, yeah?
All
Okay.
right. Thank you, Dr. Njoki. You mentioned earlier that, grades is not all that we should look out for when we're enrolling our children to schools. And even as we speak, the next year is coming soon, and parents are thinking, I need to maybe transfer my child, or I need to take my child, to begin their education. What do you think some of the key things, some of these key things are that parents should look out for as they look for schools for their children?
Okay. When I say grades are not everything, I think grades come as a consequence
Yes.
Right.
of other things.
Okay.
Yes. Grades is a measure of performance, isn't it? But for the child to perform, certain things have to be in place. And most of the things are around the care of the performer, the physical body, isn't it? So if the child is healthy, of course they're well fed, they're in an environment that is clean and that is safe, then the performance will come.
Right.
Let me give an example. If a child has not gone to the washroom the whole day
Yes.
because they can't or whatever it is, even if they're in the best school in this country, will they learn anything?
No.
Will they
Actually.
be listening? Because their body is not in a good space for
Right.
the mind to. That's
function,
a
yeah.
simple example. Or if they're hungry, or they didn't sleep well at night because in that dorm of theirs there are 100 children, and some are sneezing, some are snoring, some are I don't know what.
Yeah.
Yes,
And some children find it difficult to sleep in such environments, or they didn't eat very well. They're hungry, their stomachs are paining, they have diarrhea. That child will not perform.
Yes.
You see, performance is at the end. So to parents, when you're looking out for a school, look out for details. Look out for small things. A school that is excelling in academics also excels in the little things. Little things. When you walk into the school, personally, the first thing I look for is the washroom.
Yes.
If that washroom is clean and is well ordained, then I have a feeling that these people look after detail.
Right.
They are likely to go into the nitty-gritties of teaching my child, and that child will excel.
Okay.
Remember that not all of us get A's, but we all excel in this world.
Right.
Yes.
We want that by the time the child is exiting the system. Remember, we're in school for like 15 years. That's a long time. Yeah. By the time the child is exiting the system, let them exit the system with a C, but they're a wholesome
Yeah.
child. They'll be able to hustle.
Yeah,
They'll
sure.
survive in the world.
Right.
But you don't want a child with an A who is mentally, not
Yes.
okay
Yeah.
because of the experience they underwent in that school. Fine, they got the A, but they're a broken child. You see?
Okay.
So you want a child who will thrive, who has capacity to hustle like all of us, to make ends meet because they're a wholesome human being.
All right.
And there is space for every child. We need the A's, we need the B's, we need the C's, we
need
the
all of them.
D's. We are
Yes.
told the D's employ the A's, isn't it?
We need-
So we who got A's have to be employed. No, there is space for everyone. Let us look at the wholesomeness of the child and not necessarily the grade that we're going to push. So
Okay.
as a parent, you're going to enroll your child in a school. Don't ask what was the mean score last year. Thanks be to God for CBC. This mean score story
Yeah.
is gradually going to come to an end. But look at the details.
Okay.
Take a walk around the school and see, is this the kind of standard that I would want, the kind of environment I would want my child to be in? And if it's not, then even if they're a
Thank
top
you.
performing school, yeah.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. Allow me to just speak 2 or 3 comments before we call it a close.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the talk. This one is asking how they can get the talk later. We are live on X, on YouTube, and on Facebook at Hope FM Live. You can get the talk there.
She wants to share with the
says,
school.
I need to share with my school. This is so informative. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right. Praise God and good morning to you. Kinley, following Dr. Njoki, so enlightening. And Sema, it's a collective responsibility from school and parents and government as well. And the comments are many, but time fails us, so we will leave it just at that for now.
Yeah, sure.
But in closing, we can just get to hear from Dr. Njoki. What is the way forward? What are your final remarks?
It's complex. It's a complex situation, and it's complex also because we have decided that we will. There are parents who homeschool their kids, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
it's not the capacity of the most of us.
Yes.
But the same way, even like now in October, the kids are coming home,
Yeah.
and now then the parents have to deal with health and safety and security and nutrition and accommodation for the 2 months when the kids are at home. Think, when the children are in school, you've delegated that responsibility to the school. Are they going to do it the way you would do it at home?
Right.
As a parent, how can I support my school so that I don't complain when they don't, when things don't happen? How do I show love to my child? I show love to my child by making sure they are treated extremely well in school and at home. And by the way, it doesn't mean that you need to have fancy facilities, because if it's a rural school in I don't know where, but you see, that's what the children are used to.
Yes.
They're not used to fancy, but simple does not mean bad.
Right.
It can be a very simple environment, but it can still be clean. The food can still be nutritious. The boarding facilities can still be safe, even if it is simple, isn't
Right.
it? So I'm not saying that now we all have to put fancy buildings. and
Yeah,
spend-
yeah.
It can be simple, but that does not mean that it cannot be clean.
All right.
Again, to government, please, please, please. In these 2 months, we have a window. When children are at home, let us do our inspection. Let us help our schools be safe, because ultimately they will always be blamed when things go wrong. And to school leaders and to school administrators, if you need help with audits, please ask the right people. They will help you. Let 2025 be a year of new beginnings. Let it be that we are going there knowing that we're really looking after the health and safety of our children, and then we pray. I
Right.
think God helps us, but when we have put all the structures in place and everything is okay, then we can tell God to really help us.
Thank
So
you.
that our children remain safe when they are in school.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Dr. Njoki Fernendes.
Thank you for having me.
Most welcome, and thank you so much for helping us with the conversation. Our time is pretty much well spent. We'll see you tomorrow, same time and same place.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Have a lovely day.
Hope FM. Listen and live. It's now 9